James Corden is definitely tapping into new audiences with Carpool Karaoke, just like Fallon did with his lip sync battles or Kimmel's mean tweet readings. Rachel, how did late night viral segments come to be a priority?
Well, I think part of it is the audience for the late night was shrinking, and I think that it became less kind of appointment television where you're staying up to watch. I think we saw it in the sort of the final years of David Letterman, and then after he retired, and there was kind of a sameness amongst late night, and the way to break out of that was to create these moments, these sketches, these little these things that could be shared the next day, which as you pointed out in the intro, you get 90 million hits on a segment for a show that not that many people, I think, know about or watch. I mean, I think that James Corden, before he got the gig hosting, I don't think a lot of people outside of England knew who he was. And so this is a way of kind of, building an audience for shows, for entire shows that no one is actually really tuning into.
Is it official at this point, Stephen? Is late night television morning after television now?
Yeah, it was done. I mean, it was done maybe 5 years ago. I think Corden has really done it. Jimmy Fallon, I mean, it really began when there was the late night wars about what hour Conan was going to be on with Leno. And that just seemed like totally pointless. And Jimmy Fallon was asked about it at that time, and he said, I don't care. Because people are TiVoing my stuff. You could put me on at 3:30 in the morning. It makes no difference to me. Because people are going to TiVo it and watch it if I'm doing something fun. And I think what's happened now is that's just become official. Plus, you have the web, the internet, like you have all these pop culture entertainment sites that begin their mornings with the funniest thing that happened on these shows the night before. And that's everyone, Colbert, so Corden, everyone. So that's the battle. The fight is for what was the funniest clip last night, which is very different than who owns 11 o'clock.
Emily, it seems like these viral sensations are a nod to the spontaneity of talk shows past, but how spontaneous do you think these segments really are?
I don't think they're very spontaneous at all. And I also don't know that the history of talk shows has that much spontaneity. There are built-in moments like with Letterman and Know Your Cuts of Meat and other streeter type stuff, like one of my favorite segments of all time. I think I've brought it up 8 times on this show. But with that kind of thing, it's always been totally manufactured and built in, and that is 100% what's happening now. I feel like the in the car karaoke bit, the reason that it works is because it's such an intimate environment and it destabilizes the idea of the talk show. In fact, it's only a response to the fact that we're not watching talk shows, we're watching clips, we're watching little bits. So why not just make the talk show little bits instead?
Yeah.
But this has always been the way. I mean, the point of these celebrity, which are basically to show off celebrities, these shows, is to give you the sense of intimacy while having total control over the image, right? And that was true when Johnny Carson was having Frank Sinatra on and was not asking him, so why don't you tell us about your mob connections, Mr. Sinatra, right? I mean, it was always PR. So, I think that hasn't changed at all. It's just a question of nobody really wants to hear Emma Stone tell a cute story about how great she is anymore. Yeah. It's much better to see her screw up playing a game.
Is there concern there for you, Rachel, in terms of that staged authenticity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's not sort of the kind of earth-shattering concern, but I do think that there's a role for good arts journalism. And I think sometimes these shows did it, and not to overly, laud David Letterman, but there were moments when, he would have Paris Hilton on in the heyday of Paris Hilton and not sort of play along with her, actually say, so you went to jail. What, like he would actually, and I think that those moments were really important, not so much to dig at dirt of an individual celebrity, but to kind of prick the bubble of celebrity, to kind of get at that. And I think in something like the Carpool Karaoke, when you have someone like Adele who is so enormously likable, you think that this is probably not that far from the real Adele, but it does kind of allow this sense of they're just like us, and celebrity isn't this weird, unusual thing, and celebrity is a weird and unusual thing. And I think talk shows used to be able to kind of poke at that a bit, and now they just don't.
I mean, I think Letterman, he was so great because he had so much loathing for what he was doing, especially in the end years, but even in the beginning, he had this just contempt that was just so refreshing and wonderful. And, the thing about Fallon is it's just can you not smile?
The tone now is one of
cheerful,
fun at all times.
Let's jump through the hoops. Let's pretend we're all out doing karaoke with our buds and we're 24 years old, and we've all had 2 drinks.
Yeah,
right?
the
Like
relationship used to be way more symbiotic.
Yeah.
Like it used to be that the host had a platform and the celebrity could add to that platform, but now it's just a weird alchemy. So just because you subscribe to a YouTube channel doesn't mean that you're watching every video. It has to have like a little bit more. So when the Adele in the car rapping along with Nicki Minaj takes off, it's not just because it was Adele, and it's not just because it was a talk show. It was this weird third thing. And it used to be that there was more control over it. Like you had to book Paris Hilton because she was famous, and that's what's going to get people to tune in. But they would be more likely to tune in because Letterman was hosting that show. Now it's like, who cares if it's Fallon and the Roots? Like it doesn't.
On the other hand, it is getting a lot
doesn't match up.
weirder, which I love. You know, like Jimmy Kimmel bits, like the weird hatred for Matt Damon that I find so. I just love that. I just love all that stuff, and it's just like very, very strange, right? And that was what David Letterman had at the beginning, like all that weird stuff, like reporting from the street, like getting people to walk through the East Village, just stopping strangers and talking to them. And I think that is coming back a bit. It's just so highly produced, highly processed. I mean, we'll see if I find Jimmy Fallon, like I loved him at first, and then it was just like I can't watch another game of beer pong.
Last thoughts to you on this, Emily. Do you think it's going to go more, late night will go more in the direction of fun, or do you think it will get weirder?
I think both, honestly. First of all, weird is fun. and second of all, eventually we're going to get to a point where like the show is the assemblage of clips. It's not the other way around. You know, as you said when you're introducing this topic, 90 million people watch this thing on YouTube. That is a lot more powerful and is probably bringing in way more money than anything else that they're doing in late night.